Hey guys, welcome into my channel. So we're going to be testing out some new makeup releases. I got a variety of different things. Some of it is more affordable makeup and some of it is high end. Let's go over the things that I got today that we're going to try on. If you guys are not new to my channel and you have seen some of my other videos, you know right now I'm currently obsessed with the new MAC Connect and Color eyeshadow palettes, and I did mention in one of my more recent videos that I was interested in picking up another one from the smaller size. They do have larger 12 pans and then they do have smaller 6 pans. So I picked up another one. This is the more pinky color story. This one is called Rose Lens. I almost thought about getting the larger, more colorful one, but I thought I'm not gonna reach for that as much. These color stories are super wearable, super everyday for me. So because I was so impressed with the quality, I did pick up another one. So we are gonna create a pretty pink look today, even though it doesn't necessarily match what I'm wearing. Nobody really cares. I picked up one of the NARS Afterglow liquid blushes. This one is in the shade Orgasm. I've never really tried an Orgasm shade product. I have a blush that's Orgasm X, but not the original, so we'll try that. And then BH Cosmetics had quite a bit of new releases. So they actually had 2 mascaras come out. One of them was Feathered Lash Lift and Lengthen, and the other one was Bold Ego. So that one was the volumizing mascara. So I wanted to try those. I am a big fan of BH Cosmetics. They also had a Sunflex powder highlighter come out. They also had a cream bronzer come out, and not as new of a release on some of the other items. MAC had their Sunstruck matte bronzer come out, and I've been eyeing this for a while, but I didn't pull the trigger until I saw it in Ulta and I was picking up the eyeshadow palette, so I picked that up. I've also been eyeing this Bye Bye Dark Spots concealer from IT Cosmetics. So because I was there, of course I picked it up, and probably around the same time as the bronzer and the concealer, the Benefit Goof Proof Brow Powder also launched, and I've been eyeing this one. So these are the 3 things that I was like in my cart, out of my cart, in my cart, out of my cart. I also don't know if this is new, but I kind of feel like it was. It's the Precision Icon Fine Brow Pencil from BH. So we'll outline with this and then use the Goof Proof to fill in. And then the very final thing is Lawless launched her Juicy Watermelon line. I didn't want to get everything from that because that blush was super punchy, and that's just not something that I reach for all the time. But I did want to try the Lip Plumping Line Smoothing Tinted Balm Stick. So I got that one in Juicy Watermelon because I hear that this formula is really, really good. So pretty pink. Let me zoom you in and we'll get started. Let's start with the eyes. So I'm not going to put on any foundation just yet. I will throw that on a little bit, but I'm going to throw on my Essence Prime Like a Boss eyeshadow primer. Honestly, I've almost used all of this product up. It launched in January and it's been pretty good. Like, it's almost like a gel formula. If you guys can see me put it on, it's super lightweight. It doesn't offer any coverage. It's universal, but it really works with every shadow. It just has a little bit of tack to it. There's just an awful little bit of product in it, so I've gone through it pretty quickly. It's basically almost gone. I'm squeezing the tube pretty hard to get the remaining product out. I think it's pretty much dry and tacky, so I am going to go into my Make Beauty. This is the Diffusion Set Translucent Pressed Powder in light medium. I've had this for a while, and I try and rotate out my powders, or just every product of mine. I try and rotate it out. I don't have an everyday makeup drawer. It's just all behind me. And so I try and grab for something different like every day, or it's just a day that I really need to look good, and then I'll reach for my favorites. But I pulled this back out recently and I've been obsessed with it. It's worked really good. I don't remember it working that well when I first started using it. Even though I have really dry skin, the humidity here in Florida this time of year, my makeup will slip off of my face pretty consistently. But for whatever reason right now, this time of year, it's just working so good. So if you have dry skin and really struggle finding powders that work for you, I don't know, that's just a really good one. I like a lot of stuff from Make Beauty, and I love the fact that these are all like magnetic compacts that you can change out. And because these are like pretty consistent in style, it's nice to have something that just pulls out. Let's move into this eyeshadow palette next. So if you didn't know, MAC launched some Connect and Color eyeshadow palettes, and there were 3 color stories in larger 12 pan palettes, and there were 4 in the smaller ones. Originally I bought 2, so I bought a cool tone version in the smaller palette, and then I bought a warmer tone version in the larger palette. And I tried the larger palette first in one video. I was so impressed by the formula that I ended up using the second one almost immediately, couldn't put it down. I was pretty much getting the same look over and over again, but I was so impressed with the formula that I thought about just getting the whole line, which is kind of expensive, but these are such good quality shadows that they're everyday shadows for me. They blend really easily. They're like really wearable color stories. So I don't mind spending the money on them. This one was $30. Again, this one is in the color story Rose Lens. This is just a color story that I would reach for on an everyday basis because I really do like pink. I also picked up some new brushes from BK Beauty. I did get one of the Angie Hot and Flashy concealer brushes, so I feel like we could try that today, but these ones aren't necessarily new. These are just some of their eyeshadow brushes, so I am going to use them today. These are pretty consistent styles that I use on an everyday basis to do my eyeshadow. This one here that is in 201 is more like a pretty fluffy all over brush. Then this one is kind of an in the crease, like it's tighter pinched brush. This one's 202. The one that's like an outer packer brush that's very, very thin and pretty tightly packed, I usually always use it to pack the outer corner, is 206. It's unfortunate actually with this color story that this shade here will never do anything on my skin tone. It might, I mean, like depending upon the undertone, but usually the shade is kind of a wash for me. I don't particularly highlight and I usually don't diffuse out a color with this kind of shade. So for me, it really doesn't do anything. And then these two are satins and these ones, I think these ones in the outer corner are shimmers. Their shimmers are on the lighter side. Mostly what I love about this palette is that the mattes are just amazing. So yeah, that's the unfortunate part about it. I am going to take a satin all over the lid. I'm going to take this in the crease, this in the outer corner, and then this one in the outer corner I'm going to take all over the lid. So now you know how I'm going to apply it. I'm just going to speed through this portion using my BK Beauty brushes. So let me give you some thoughts on the eyeshadow palette. This is probably my least favorite color story, and I kind of like honed in on that right away when I was looking at the different formulas of this, because most of these are satin. They're not mattes in the way that you would build up depth in the outer corner. This shade here was over blending, and that's indicative of, I think, what a satin would typically do. So that's not unusual that it was performing that way, but I was losing some of its pigment, and it's more brown than it looks kind of purple here in the pan, where this is supposed to be like a rose colored color story. This is pulling more brown on my lid. I'm just a little disappointed that these are satin and then they have one shade in here that doesn't do anything for me. Also, this shimmer is so light it almost doesn't show up. It's the same way with the other shimmers in the other palettes. That doesn't necessarily bother me because I already expected that from this palette, because I knew the shimmer quality was like that. But overall, I think this is my least favorite color story. It's just not as impactful as the other ones. It doesn't have enough mattes in there, and that's probably the highlight of these palettes, was the matte formula for me. The brushes are really, really good. I always like to get my hands on more expensive brushes, but I don't always want to pull the trigger. I cannot say that I am disappointed in the quality of these. They work really, really well. They're just on the higher price point, and I have some brushes here that are more affordable that I also think are really, really good, but I like mixing them with quality or higher end or higher priced brushes in my collection, because it's nice to mix and match. I don't always get 100% luck every time I use a more affordable brush. Sometimes some affordable brands will do a really good job on one brush, but they won't do a good job on another brush. So I'm always trying to find brushes. These are really good really, really good if you want to spend the money. I figured that I would just do my foundation now and then we would go into eyebrows. So I'm just gonna hop off. I'm gonna throw on some Wet n Wild Photo Focus Dewy foundation and we'll be right back. Okay, foundation is on. I figure before I sit here and look ghostly, maybe we go into the concealer. So I think we'll do that next. This is the Bye Bye Dark Spots Concealer plus Serum from IT Cosmetics. It does come with like a little brush on top. I'm gonna skip that entirely. It does feel a little bit pokey. I've never been a fan of these brushes. I don't know why cosmetic companies honestly keep doing this. I feel like a lot of us say that we don't like them, and I don't know really anybody that uses these brushes. I do kind of like them on the back of like bronzer ones if I'm in a hurry, but I have never tried one on a concealer that I've really liked. But I don't know, maybe there are studies that show that people do like that. So if you guys like it, I'd love to hear if you use these little brushes on these. You can't set the product down because it's a circled bottom, so just know that. It kind of has a flat tipped applicator. I am gonna go in on one side first. Feels like a really light formula and it has a tack to it. I mean, even putting it on, you can see that it's a little bit sticky. I did swatch this in store and I was really pleasantly surprised the way that it blended into the back of my hand. Like, it really felt hydrating, especially on my hand. If it's a drier formula, I can usually see it like, you know, sitting in my pores funny or just kind of looking dry on the back of my hand, but I don't think it did. So let's go into this Angie Hot and Flashy concealer brush. This is the A506. And I'm just going to bounce this in. It took me like 5 minutes to open that package. So this has been sitting here a little while and it's still blending in really nicely, so it doesn't dry too quickly. It does feel like a hydrating formula. This is supposed to be a Build-em medium coverage with a natural finish. So let's test out its buildability. I don't have the best luck with buildability on concealers. I don't know if you guys do. I'd love to hear whether or not like you layer your concealers. I typically think to myself, if I have to layer a concealer, it's not the right concealer for me, because I like something that's medium coverage right away, doesn't require me to go in with 2 layers. I'm usually doing my makeup fast on an everyday basis when I'm trying to get ready for work. So buildability is nice. I just want it to be the right amount of coverage right away without looking too cakey. And I think that's kind of like a tricky balance, especially with people's different under eyes, their sensitivity, how dark circles change, skin types and all of that. So I'm always on the hunt for a good concealer, but I still find myself reaching for the same freaking 5 concealers. It actually does look like a pretty hydrating formula though. I'm gonna be honest. This does not look dry. It does look like a natural finish. It doesn't look heavy. Like, it doesn't actually look like I layered 2 on top of each other. I mean, it's definitely a very bright shade. It brightened up my under eye, but it doesn't look like the texture is added any. It doesn't look thick or anything. I will be the first to admit though, IT Cosmetics and me, when it comes to base products, we do not get along. Everybody loves their CC creams and other foundations from them. Every single one of those has looked terrible on my skin. So that is why I hesitated to pull the trigger to buy this, but I actually have heard quite a few people saying that this was a really good concealer that have like dry skin and similar skin types. So I was hopeful. I am gonna build this up just like I did the other side to be even. Center of my face is looking super red today. By the way, this concealer brush is extremely soft. It is so soft. It is the perfect shape if you're somebody who really likes concealer brushes for under the eyes. It gets into every little crevice really perfectly. If you can see on my skin, like, I'm getting to an age where I'm, you know, it just is what it is. But like, you can see kind of how sticky this concealer is because it's kind of like dragging on my skin. And I don't usually get that a lot. Even with concealer brushes, I don't always get like, you know, it just kind of sticking. It's a stickier formula, which means I think they were trying for, you know, the hydrating side. I always say this when I do a new concealer, but we will be looking at it throughout the video because by the time I'm done filming, because it takes me a lot longer than what I edit and put back out there, that I'm sitting here doing my makeup, and so if it starts to sink into my fine lines, it's out, it's done, it's gone, it's not gonna work for me. I will not keep trying it. I don't even like to put more than just my normal eye cream on as hydration, so if I have to add an extra step, I don't want it. And I will be able to tell you guys whether it starts doing that before we are even wrapped. I'm gonna go back into my Make Beauty powder, I'm gonna set my face, and then we're gonna come back and do the brows. I feel like I am so low-key tired today. I just have like so low energy on this video. All right, I've powdered. Let's go into the brows. I definitely want to use the brow pencil from BH Cosmetics to outline the brows first, and then we'll go in and we'll fill in with the Goof Proof. It's been a hot minute since I've done a brow powder. I don't know if it's going to be something I love. I think that's why I went in my cart and out of my cart, because I thought to myself, well, even if I try it, like, will it be something that I want to reach for? And I don't mind them, I just don't think they're super fast. So the pencil I have is in the shade Medium Brown. Like I said, I wasn't sure if this was a new release from BH Cosmetics, but I think that it was. I definitely know the mascaras were, the bronzer and the highlighter, but this one I wasn't sure, and I don't ever remember seeing it on their site, so I feel like it was a new release. And Medium Brown may be a little bit dark. It does have a spoolie on one end. Ultra precise brow pencils are my thing. Let's do a swatch. It has a little bit of warmth on the shade. It's a drier formula, so it's not going to be something that slips around, but this might be good to really outline with so that we can fill in with a color that's more cool toned. This one is in Warm Light Brown in the shade 3, but this is my favorite color from Benefit. I do use the 2.5, and I'll put on 2.5 on more natural days because it really does match the coolness of my brows. Yeah, this Medium Brown one has a bit of warmth in it. You can really see it, but it's creamy enough that it goes on nicely. It's also not super slippy. Let's go into this Goof Proof brow powder. Cute little flower imprints in there. I'm gonna take one of my Rude Cosmetics brow liner brush, pardon me, and start filling this in. Wow, extremely easy. I can tell where the BH Cosmetics and the Goof Proof kind of starts and stops, because the Medium Brown, the BH Cosmetics, I mean, it's a good formula. Like, it's a really good brow pencil. We'll see how long it lasts, but on application, it's a really good micro brow pencil. The shade is just more on the warm side, so be aware of the Medium Brown being more kind of auburn. You guys, doing your brows and trying to make them match, is that a struggle for you? Because that's a struggle for me. I like this formula. I actually think this shade, when it's not a micro brow pencil, is quite dark in a powder. So I almost have to recommend that if you use the Benefit Precise in My Brow or any of their brow products, that like go down a shade if you use this. And I'll have to keep testing it to see whether or not that's absolutely true, but that's kind of what it feels like on first application. It's not that I don't like it. It is an easy to use product so far. Like, I was over here messing around behind camera, but I also pretty much had it done in about 30 seconds. Like, it was fast. An update on the concealer, you guys. So far, it is not sinking into my fine lines, but it does look like I put 2 layers on it. Like, it's definitely looking heavier as it continues to sit, but it's not sinking in yet. I mean, a thicker formula usually would. I have to say, I'm getting up close with my brows right now. This one in Medium Brown is almost like a yellowish, orangish undertone. It's not super flattering, and it's quite obvious. Like, you guys can see it, like out here where I did the outline. It's so warm. It's really, really warm shade. So just keep that in mind. I cannot remember how many shades this came in, but if you have cooler toned brows and even go for a darker color than your normal eyebrow color, you might want to stick with something that's a little bit lighter and hope that it's cooler. I don't know how many people are really interested in BH Cosmetics, but I usually keep an eye on their launches. I am gonna go into this Summer Heat Cream Bronzer from BH Cosmetics next. This one is in the shade Fair to Light. I have been using some bronzers lately on my forehead that were a little bit more luminous. They were cream bronzers, and I came to find that I absolutely hate it. Some of the bronzers that I love on my cheeks that have a little bit of luminosity, for example, the Tower 28 Bronzino, I wore it recently and I'm like, no, I cannot do that on my forehead. I don't like the way it looks. I also noticed that with the e.l.f. Luminous Putty Bronzer as well. I did not like its amount of luminosity and the actual like cool tone shades that I had, but I'm just coming to find I do not like anything but a super matte bronzer on the forehead. So I'm gonna keep this to the cheeks today, and then we'll use the MAC bronzer on the forehead. And that's just a good way to be able to test them both. This does come with a mirror inside. Oh, it's nice and creamy and emollient, but a very warm toned shade. I'm definitely gonna focus it kind of on the higher points of my face because it's a warmer toned shade. It feels like, oh yeah, full cream to powder finish. It's pretty opaque, like it's got a good amount of pigmentation. So far, the formula feels really, really nice. I'm gonna take a flat, clean sponge and bounce it in just a couple of times. Really pigmented. The couple of times I'm gonna take across both cheeks and just blend it in. That's actually a very beautiful warm tone bronzer. It's not overly pigmented or overly warm. And it also has like a little bit of a sheen to it, even though it felt like a cream to powder formula. You can see the little bit of sheen that it's got. It's actually quite beautiful, but it's fully dried. So I don't know, it's like a sheeny cream to powder formula. So far I really like this. And BH Cosmetics is pretty affordable. Let's go into the Skinfinish Sunstruck Matte Bronzer from MAC. By the way, MAC kills it with packaging. I did see a comment on Instagram, and I said this in my first video where I tried the eyeshadow palettes, that someone had mentioned like MAC is all packaging. But I have loved their quality recently. The packaging is really extreme and extravagant, but it's also bomb. Like, it's not more money than the stuff we're spending our money on for boring packaging, in my opinion, and it's nice to look at, but the quality has been really good. I mean, that's the point that I'm trying to get to. And I ended up picking the shade Light Rosy. I thought that was interesting. I think that's kind of cool. I'm gonna pick it up with a fluffy brush and just apply it to the forehead. I don't expect that it's gonna be patchy or not good quality. Not bad, MAC, not bad. Not bad at all. Good powder formula. I can't hate on it. It's actually very, very nice. I've only tried it just this 5 seconds ago, but it went on perfectly. Let's move on into the NARS blush. So this is a fairly new release. I think this did just come out just a few days ago. This is the Afterglow Liquid Blush, and I mentioned that I got mine in the shade Orgasm. I actually did swatch this because I couldn't help myself. Every time a new blush comes, I have to. Like the packaging. Love NARS packaging as well. Just very standard and sleek. Big doe foot applicator. It's more, I think, supposed to be like on the sheer side and like dewy, but I got a really nice, very pigmented swatch out of this the first time, and I'm getting it now as well. And then I kind of rubbed it in and it didn't start looking patchy. It held a good amount of pigmentation, even though it's like luminous. It's the kind of blush that is supposed to give you, you know, just like a flush. It's supposed to remain dewy, but look, it never got patchy on my swatch. It kept a good amount of pigmentation, so I'm quite excited for this. I will start with 2 dots. Those are pretty heavy dots. I'm gonna use the same sponge that I used for the bronzer, but I'm gonna use the flat side that's clean and bounce it in. Oh, holy smokes. I love it. I do really like this. Very, very luminous, not an overly pigmented product. So if you guys like that lighter blush that gives that little hint of luminosity, but also doesn't get patchy, this is it for you. This is awesome. And guys, it feels almost dry. It's also, if you're just the opposite and you really prefer that something more pigmented, this product feels like it would just layer on top of itself really nicely. So I think you kind of get best of both worlds here. You know, it's expensive, and there are definitely other things on the market I think that you can get that are very similar. I mean, even like K-Beauty has things like this, but I try all sorts of new releases, and some people really prefer to shop from certain brands. And so if you really do like a liquid blush and you were thinking about getting this, I think that if you like all the things that I mentioned, I think you would like it. I'm actually somebody who prefers kind of a matte blush, even if it is liquid or cream, but I really like this formula. So if that tells you something, it's just that the dry time on it is great, and there are times where I like a luminous finish. So anyway, if you are a big fan of NARS and you were thinking about this, you guys, I can tell you that it's really, really good, honestly, in terms of formulation. Let's do a concealer check-in. So it's not creasing, but you guys, I will say though, like, I do not like the layered effect. It's such a tacky formula that even setting it down with powder, the powder didn't really cover it all up, to be honest. And I just feel like it kind of seems like I put 2 coats on. It looks a little heavy even though it's not sinking in. So that's why I don't like to layer it. If layering it works on your skin though, it's buildable. Now we're moving on into the highlighter. So this is the Sunflex highlighter from BH Cosmetics. This one is in the shade Bel Air. Here is the inner design. Feels very soft. I still have the blush on the back of my hand, so you guys are gonna see that. It is very light reflecting, which is something that I like. If you guys aren't really into punchy highlighters, I don't know, I already feel like you might not love this. I'm just gonna take my ColourPop highlighter brush. Just kidding, this is the Rare Beauty highlighter brush. And we're going in. Oh, yeah, it's punchy. It's good though, it's smooth. You guys see how smooth it is? Doesn't really emphasize texture. Barely tapped my brush in like this. And it's like, look at that. Really good pigmentation. Oh, it's punchy and nice. So good formula on this one. If you like something that's punchy, you guys, this is super easy to use. I am, for the sake of gonna hydrate my lips, gonna put on the Forget the Filler Lip Plumping Line Smoothing Tinted Balm Stick from Lawless. You guys, who names their product that long? I'm sorry, that's so much. I have a mascara from Lawless that I am obsessed with. Aside from that, I have tried nothing else from Lawless. So I hear good things about this formula. You really gotta warm this up, don't you? Boy, it's kind of on the stiffer side. Good pigment, hydrating, stiffer. Okay, we are moving on into the mascaras. So the first one is the Lift and Lengthen, and the other one is the Bold Ego Big Volume Mascara. I wanna try one on each side. Let's go into the Lengthen one first, and we're going to apply it to the left side. Here's the packaging. Your kind of standard one. Doesn't seem to pick up a lot of product. It looks very clean. Let's go into the left side. Actually is not picking up a lot of pigment right away. Okay, that's it on the left side. My thoughts on this are that it's a drier formula. It was a lot of building up. Not only is it kind of a drier formula, it also dries very fast. And so building it up was a little bit more difficult. I'm not saying it was impossible, but it's pretty much already dry already. I don't know if I love this. I like a wetter formula than this. So already kind of right away, that's not my favorite. Because I have longer eyelashes, I don't think it added any length to them. And without them being super pigmented, it's not necessarily highlighting my length, if that makes sense. Let's go into the right eye with the volumizing mascara. Same packaging, just a different color. Wand is maybe a little bit thicker. Like, not a lot of product actually picks up on this thing. So like, you know, my first couple of dips in, I'm not getting a whole lot onto my lashes. I feel like I like that one better. I think it is volumizing, but I still think it gives good length. I'm gonna say with these are not gonna be my favorite. I doubt it. If I was gonna reach for anyone more frequently, it would be this one for sure, the volumizing mascara. Because I think that it just, I don't know, for whatever reason, I like the right eye a little bit better. I am more partial to this freaking eyelash anyway, just because I'm right-handed. I feel like this is thicker and it gives me less trouble for whatever reason. But I do feel like I usually dip into my mascaras 2, 3, 4 times, maybe when applying the whole eye, and I was dipping in like 12 times with this. If that tells you something, I probably would stay away from getting these. They're just, I don't think that they're great. That was everything. I did talk about things as I was going, so hopefully you guys know how I feel about each of the products. I loved almost everything, but I'm gonna talk to you guys about the things that I'm either on the fence about or that I really just didn't like, or kind of like buyer beware. The first thing was the brow pencil from BH Cosmetics on the warmer side. You can see that it's like almost yellow undertoned on my eyebrows. So not a huge fan of the shade, loved the formula. I don't know that I'm necessarily sold on the concealer yet. I didn't like the layered effect. I feel like it was more hydrating, and I think that's what I mean by natural finish. And so it took me twice to build up powder under my eyes. It's not creasing though. It does not seem like a drying formula. So if you guys are worried about it sinking into your fine lines or just looking dry on your under eyes, I don't think you have the problem with this particular product. I don't think it'll do that. But I have to say though, it's not like immediately blown me away, but it'll be in my speed reviews, so I will be able to tell you guys how I feel about it then. The lip plumper is so mild and quite comfortable. Yes, it was a stiffer formula. Could be that it was newer. Otherwise, it's so comfortable. Very mild, cooling plumping. And that's all I have to say about everything. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. If you are not currently subscribed, I hope you consider subscribing. I'd love to hear in the comments from you guys whether or not you are interested in trying some of these products. If you've already picked some of these things up. That is all for me this evening, you guys. I am out of here, and I will catch you all in my next video. Bye.